Good morning, America. Okay. There's a lot of confusion going on right now. There are progressive socialists. Ooh, they're on the Democrat side, so ooh. So what is socialism? Everybody thinks they know, and yet nobody fully understands other than to consider it something to fear or embrace because we get free stuff. Because everybody likes free stuff. Free healthcare. Woo! Yay, we don't have to pay. So everybody loves that. But then other people say, no, that's horrible, evil. How do you pay for it? It's free. You don't pay for it. And so other people think, oh, we're in a capitalist society. It's the best economic system ever. And so what is capitalism? How are we implementing it, if at all? Because we're not. Because I've already done the video on ransom economy. So watch that video. That's the kind of economy we're living in. Ransom. We have people that require us to pay for lawyers when we get into a car accident or any situation that we encounter. We have to get a lawyer and sue in order to recover damages. That's ransom economy. You know, where your rights, your privileges, your products, your goods, your services, they're all being held for ransom, and you must pay in order to get them, get them back. So, needing to get a lawyer, ransom economy. Needing to have insurance, ransom economy. So, yeah, that's what we're in. We don't live in capitalism. That's not the economy we utilize. We have a Federal Reserve who just freely gives out digital currency to the banks, and then the banks loan money to people. And that's where they make their money, is from the interest from the loan getting paid off. And then you have people like Trump, who refuses to pay the interest on the loan and declares bankruptcy, and then goes to a different lender and gets more money, and so on and so forth, and then nobody wants to lend to him anymore, so he goes to the Russians, who then hold him for ransom. That's our economy. That's how it works, and that's why we're in a big pile of deep doggy doo-doo. And so, shall we start with capitalism? Capitalism, if fully implemented, is where an average citizen is able to start up their own business. It requires capital to do so, so that requires loans from banks. But other times, if you start from the beginning, people are able to obtain plots of land. So back many millennia ago, nobody really owned the land, and so all you had to do was learn how to farm, as one example, and you would harvest a crop and then go and sell the crop to others who didn't produce that particular crop that you harvested. And then you'd buy from them what they have that you don't have. And everything would be peaceful and harmoniously. But that's not how it works. It's never worked that way. Capitalism in its pure form isn't practical. It doesn't work because people are greedy. When you have money involved, people want all of it. They want the most. You know, they want to be the biggest, the most powerful. I control it all. And so, yeah, people are dumb that way. And you can have a government that controls the economy to prevent people from obtaining such power. And so, yeah, you can mix government with economies, and you can have varying combinations. So like Canada, for example, people think they're socialist. Well, only in government form. In their economy, they do have free health care, you do get free babies, you do get paid for having kids, but they don't do what socialist economics has. And as a result, there's plenty of there's a monetary system in Canada, and that excludes it from being socialist. So once you introduce money of any kind, whether it's barter trade or currency, then it's no longer socialism. And so I don't think people understand that in the progressive socialists when they claim that they want free health care, but they want to be able to go to the grocery store and buy groceries. You can't mix economies and claim that you're socialist in an economic system. Under capitalism, what you'd have is Levi Strauss, who's now dead and gone, and now has it's a family-run business, I would assume, unless it's the board, which no longer becomes capitalism if there's a board. But if it was the original jean maker, Levi Strauss, he would sit at his sewing machine and make Levi's all day, every day, and go around selling them, or have a store where people can come and buy his Levi's. And that would be the pure capitalist system. And he would obtain money from the customers, and then he would use that money for the business to obtain more material, to make more Levi's, and make repairs on his machines, and rent or payments for the house and the business. That would be pure capitalism. So there wouldn't be central marketplaces like Walmart, Kmart, Sears, the late Mervyn's, Circuit City, Best Buy. You won't have those kinds of stores. Those are central marketplace stores. And under a pure capitalist system, you would have a Levi Strauss franchise store. So McDonald's and all the fast food joints are under that capitalist pattern. And so it's strange that they pay so little. But yeah, we wouldn't have Walmart, Mervyn's, Amazon on the internet. We would have the individual stores with their products. For grocery stores, you won't have Kroger selling other people's products. You'd have Kroger selling Kroger products, and Kroger products alone, assuming that Kroger has their own farms and production centers and manufacturing plants, etc., to make the products that they sell as Kroger brand. And if they don't, then again, we're not capitalist. Because up in Canada, for example, they'll have a farmer who farms wheat, and then he either sells it to a granary, or has the granary and grinds the wheat into flour. And then all the different companies that sell flour go to that one place and buy the flour. They bring their own bags that's filled up, and then they sell it in the stores, the central market stores. So you'll have the different companies all lined up next to each other, and it's all the exact same flour, but they're all different prices because of the name of the company, whether it's the cheap company or the more ritzy company. And so up in Canada, you know that you buy the cheap stuff because it's the same quality as the rich stuff. Why pay more for the same product? That is not capitalism. Okay, so I hope capitalism is clear now. That a dairy would sell your milks, your milk, your cheese, your yogurt, and that would be the store. Your ice cream, it would all be in one central location throughout the United States in franchises. Not a central marketplace, but your dairy store, whatever milk companies are. So that's what capitalism is. And it kind of upsets me when people tout the rhetoric, oh, we need to be capitalist. We need to ban socialism. We need to ban these horrible economic systems. Well, we don't practice capitalism, so why are you wanting capitalism to remain when it never existed in the first place? Except in a small segment of society, mostly found in restaurants, fast food restaurants. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Of course, not enough people are going to watch this to change people's minds and get people to say the right things. You know, it's like people on both sides of the news media, they both say, you know, the Republicans say we need to save democracy, and the Democrat press is also saying we need to save democracy. You know, they're both wrong. What does our Constitution say? It says the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Everybody has to follow the Constitution. And then it also says we are to have a Republican form of government. Not Republican Party, a Republican form of government. So a constitutional republic is what we're supposed to have. And again, just like capitalism, we've never had a constitutional republic in our nation's history. It has never existed in its pure form. We created something else when Thomas Jefferson created the first political party and ruined the Constitution and put us into our debates that we have now, where I get snowflakes and Nazis commenting on my posts, and they're probably Russian trolls who are saying that I'm the evil one and I'm fake news and blah 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 blah. Come on, people. Get knowledge. Don't be best. Get knowledge. And so, yeah, you gotta understand correct definitions. If you don't understand correct definitions, you're gonna be played as a chump, or you're trying to play us as chumps. So, which one is it? Are you the chump, or are you trying to chump us? Because if you're Russians, you're trying to chump us. You're twisting definitions around to stir up anger among the American people so that we end up in chaos, and then you guys come in and attack, thanks to Trump now allowing Russia to use long-range missiles. Yay, they can now bomb America. Way to go, Trump, traitor. And so, what is socialism then? Socialist economics comes from the name that it has, socialism, society. Societies run the economic system. Now you can have a socialist government that runs it, but again, you've got to get your correct definitions, because there's a difference between socialism, Marxism, and communism. And each of those can utilize a different type of socialist economics, and it ends up being implemented differently, such that it's socialist economics, Marxist economics, or communist economics, depending on which type of government you utilize. A communist economic system, for example, would have a party running the economy at central marketplaces. Yeah, sort of like what we have here in the United States, isn't it? Central party controlling central marketplaces. Oh, yeah, the stock market. Oh, yeah, exactly. We have a lot of communism in our nation. So that McCarthy hearings, the whole Red Scare that was early on in the mid-1900s, not too far off, but they didn't implement it correctly. They were doing a literal witch hunt, as Trump likes to call things, against him, because we were not defining communism correctly, and so we were looking for anybody and everybody who said magic words, you know, like Disney or the Hollywood when they portrayed Russians on their screen. You know, if they went after actors, and you know, come on, they're playing a role. You know, the people to fear were in our government. They were the ones who established the laws that now have communist systems in both governmental systems and in economy systems of communism. So they're the ones to blame, not we the people. So when government blames the people, you know that they're wrong. So Mitch McConnell blaming the huge deficit on the poor. Yeah, way to go, Mitch. You caused it, now you're blaming the poor. The poor have done nothing. There have always been poor because we don't have a good economic system. And yet somehow, magically, when the deficit skyrockets, that all of a sudden the poor are to blame for their normal condition. Anyway, all right, socialist economics. Society runs it, not party groups. There's no representatives. Everybody is involved in the work of the whole. So nobody owns property. Everything belongs to everybody. And that's part of the danger that Republicans are correct about, is that socialism, you don't own anything. You know, if you get food, it's because society allowed you to have it. Because they made it, you get to have it. But you don't own the land, you don't own your home. You are granted that by virtue of being a part of the society and contributing to the society. And I don't think the progressive socialists understand that when they're talking about free healthcare. But that's how it works, and how it doesn't need to be paid for, is that you just have somebody who's skilled in the medical profession who can see and treat people for their illnesses. And that's his contribution to society that allows him to benefit from society. And so he doesn't own his practice, you know, he doesn't own his equipment, his building, you know, his car, his home. You know, he gets an allotment of food every day, depending on the production that was made. So that's socialism. And you can't have a central marketplace, because a central marketplace is where people buy and sell goods. There is no buying and selling. There's no money involved. People need to eat, so you have farmers who plant and harvest crops and give them out to the people according to as society deems fit. And it can vary as to whether they want to give out an equal portion or a rationed portion or a privileged portion, which would cause problems in the society if they did that. Because socialist government doesn't have any representation. There's no leaders, there's no dictators. Socialist economies work at a small populace level. Once you get to a certain number in populace, it becomes more and more difficult to take care of everybody and their needs, because there's no representation to govern everybody and what they do. And so you have to have people who are on top of things in every field to handle everybody's needs. So farmers, for example, they need to know that, hey, if we have this many people, we need to produce this much food. And if we need this much land for the food, we need this many workers. And so you can see where the problems will come in. Okay, so does that make sense? Do you understand what socialism is supposed to be? What the progressive socialists are proclaiming in wanting free health care is not really socialism. They're promoting a mixed economy where socialism gets practiced with health care, but in other areas it's ransom economy. Taxation would be used to pay for it. So yeah, I gotta talk about budgets and stuff like that in another video, I guess. My system of economics is different. I think outside the box, and that's where I am more efficient and effective. But you know, who am I? Nobody cares. You're not rich. We're not listening to you. You're not popular. We're not listening to you. Yeah, alright, whatever. But my system of government is simple. The earth is already there. All the resources that we need is already there. It's free. We can do with it how we want, but there are consequences. If we deplete our resources, we kill ourselves off. So we can't deplete the resources. We can't just cut down all the trees in the world and expect nothing to happen. Because if we cut down the trees, they don't absorb our carbon dioxide. And if they don't absorb our carbon dioxide, they don't produce oxygen back into the air. You see how that works? You know, so we now have Tornado Alley, and we had the Dust Bowl in our nation. And we have the deserts of the West. That was caused by an earlier group of people. There's no records that indicate what happened over there, just like we don't know what happened in Africa to cause that. But that's what it would have been, because Africa used to be vegetated. And the only way for it to be destroyed and demolished is for mankind to demolish it and remove it. Otherwise, it would have continued to thrive. You know, the Earth doesn't just say, oh, okay, well, we're going to destroy this part of this continent and turn it into a desert. The Earth doesn't do that. If it's already vegetated, it will keep the system going and perpetuate it into a wild state, so that you'd have jungles. And so man is the cause of many of the disasters and depleted resources in our nation. The Levant in the Middle East used to be all forested, lush, full of animals, and then man came and depleted it all as it became a central hub for Europe, Asia, India, and Africa, Egypt. People just decimated the land, and so now it's a desert. So yeah, when you do that, you destroy our Earth. When it's a simple philosophy to preserve life on Earth by the concept of take a resource, put back a resource. That's part of domestication. When you domesticate an animal, they're no longer wild. They're now under control, and you don't cause their extinction. You help perpetuate their species. And even though you may use them for food, you don't cause them to go extinct, because then you don't get that food anymore. And so logic would dictate that if you want you and your generations after you to continue to eat and live, you've got to keep the species of animals and plants alive. You've got to domesticate them so that you can keep them under control and regulate the amount. And as population increases, you've got to increase the population of your resources. You got to have more vegetation. You've got to have more animals. And so it's a simple concept, but we don't utilize that. And so my economic system is based upon the basic premise of having life on a planet. That we can increase our population, that's not a problem. I mean, the United States, let's do the dimensions of the United States here. So I'm going to take some time to look it up on Google. Dimension. Okay, I edited out the calculation part of my video. It was taking too long, making too many errors. So I'll just sum it up for you. In Kansas City, or not Kansas City, the whole state of Kansas, if we were to have 100 square foot homes, we would be able to fit almost 1 billion people. 1 billion people in the state of Kansas, in the square footage area. So Kansas obviously is more rectangle than square, but you get the idea. 1 billion people. So 7 billion people of the population of the Earth, 7 floors. Magic. And so guess what we can do with the rest of the world? We can turn it into a garden. We can have farmland. We can have animals. free-range animals. And then, of course, we'll need people in the various areas of the world to manage the operations in each place, to keep the gardens going, to keep the animal population taken care of. And so, as you can see, our Earth is capable of, okay, saving the video, edited video is done. Okay, so yeah, our Earth is a natural resource, and we can fit many billions more people on the planet, and it doesn't matter the number of people we get as long as we have a garden Earth to take in our carbon dioxide and put oxygen back into the atmosphere. And it can be done. We can create a millennium as prophesied in the Bible. You know, the millennial reign of peace. The earth will be a garden. You know, it doesn't turn into a garden naturally. It turns into a jungle naturally. Or, if mankind depletes the resources, it dies. The earth will continue to turn into a jungle if there's no mankind to turn it into a garden. And so you can see where I'm going. We have corporations and governments who assist the corporations in depleting our resources. We have builders who chop down forests all so that they can build suburban homes. And they make money off of that. But we don't replenish the resources. We just deplete them. Animals, we hunt them for food, but then they're extinct. We don't manage the resources. And that's all we need to do. It's real simple. It is not a complicated thing. It's only complicated when you introduce a type of government of authoritarianism. And so, yeah, that's why I keep pushing for a constitutional republic, where the Constitution will dictate our lives, our economy, and our punishments for violations. And it can be done. Everybody who's been telling me my whole life, this is the best system there is and it can't be improved upon, you know, that's never been an answer for me. I've always said, no, it can be better. And I've had many examples in my life of where I've made systems better. When people have told me, we've tried all different types of ways, it can't be done. I step in, it's done. So I don't like people complaining about it can't be done, because I do it. I get it done. And I get it done efficiently, effectively, and better than any other system before. And I've got experience with this. It can work. And so as you see, we can have the majority of people in a centralized location in the middle of the United States. And then we can utilize the rest of the world for the vegetation that we need, not just to convert our carbon dioxide into oxygen, but also to provide us with food. And then animals. We can take care of the animals. We can domesticate them so that we can utilize them for food and other resources. And that's nothing wrong with that. People who push for animal rights or even plant rights, people who name them tree huggers. You can't put animal or plant life above human life. You just can't do that. We can all live harmoniously on the same planet, but we have to kill vegetation. We need to eat. And animals are also part of that. We don't need as much meat. We need more vegetation, but we need to be replenishing what we take. And I've seen a person who invented it's pipe tubes, and they cut out the pipe tubes so that soil fits in notches going up the pipe, and it's a greenhouse of these pipes with little notches, and they just plant little plants in those notches so they conserve space. So it's not a farmland that you decimate. It's you pipe tubes with the soil in notches, and you can. And I don't even think they had soil. I think they were doing it through a different system. But yeah, we can create more efficient and effective systems so that we don't deplete our resources. We can still take care of each other and grow to unprecedented numbers that this earth has never seen before. And it's just that when you get to a certain population, you need some system of governance. And unfortunately, people who are strong people, they tend to be bullies, and they tend to rule by dominating over others and killing anybody who threatens them. And then everybody bows down to worship them as the leader of the people. And then we, over time, say, well, we don't want bullies leading us, or military men leading us. We don't have those kinds of threats anymore, sort of. And we still always do, but then we put in people who are, rich. Rich becomes the new power. And so that's my system of economics, is that we can fit our population into a centralized area, and we can even have them spread out. It's more difficult to get resources to everybody in the world, like a special kind of fruit from one continent. It can be difficult to transport to other places around the world if there's a short lifespan of going spoiled. But other than that, yeah, we have jets that are able to transport things fairly quickly. But yeah, that would be my system, would be to have a distribution center where the majority of the people are, and then where other people are in the various areas around the world for the resource management. They would need to be supplied with special shipments of what they need, and it's all based on labor. We don't need to pay people to farm or to mine or to chop down trees. It doesn't cost anything. It's just a labor thing. So all we need is people to labor. And then people say, well, yeah, but they need to be paid for their labor so that they can buy things. No, we don't need money. You don't need it. They work, they help build the society. Give them what they want so that they can do their job. If a person is a sewer, what do they need? Well, they need a sewing machine. They need thread. They need yarn, the cloth. You know, give them what they need. Let them make it. And then they take their finished goods to the distribution center to be distributed throughout all the world to everybody that needs it. It's that simple. You know, my original systems, if you buy the books on my particular economy, you'll notice that I have planned it for the system that we have now. I wasn't utilizing a system of everybody centralized in Kansas. And so, yeah, I'm able to design systems to work within human behavioral response, because you're going to get people that are going to say, no, I don't want to leave my home, I want to stay here. All right, whatever. So, yeah, what you see in those books are a hierarchy of central distribution centers where you have people living where they are throughout the world, and the local areas would have a distribution center for their local community, and then it would expand upward to a region, an area, and continent, and yeah. So it just depends on how things are going to work. And since nobody is listening to me and nobody is trying to push and promote my ideas, I've got alternate plans for how the system would eventually be implemented. If we're under attack because Trump has already given up our nation to Russia, and we are attacked at our coasts, we would then have to flee to the center of the United States and build a society there. And so that's what the Kansas plan would involve, would be that type of system. But yeah, it can work for the whole world. I mean, yes, we would crash the stock market, and it would crash the stock markets throughout all the rest of the world. And so, yeah, we would be forcing an economy on the rest of the people, different from the stock market. And that would be up to each individual country, unless they wanted to join our economy and have free trade among everybody. And it's not a complicated system. It's real easy, and it makes everybody equal. There's no corporate boss who's sitting at a desk all day, going golfing, taking flights to Paris to tour the world, and while his laborers are slaving to make him rich so that he can travel the world and play games and have fun for his life, thinking that he deserves it because he's worked hard to get where he's gotten with his wealth. Nonsense. We'll have none of that. Everybody works, and everybody can do what they want to do. You know, if you want to learn to be a firefighter or the person in charge of the domesticated dogs, then yeah, great. You can be educated freely. We've got the technology to freely educate people. We have the internet. You know, we can create a school system directly on the internet, and we can have apprenticeships where the domesticated region of the world for dogs, you can go and work there, learning how to do it firsthand after having had your instructional education taken care of. And so, yeah, university education We don't need that. You know, I sat at a desk for 12 grades, 13 technically, just kindergarten, and that was a waste of my time. I was so bored, and all it was regurgitation learning. They give you information, you have to memorize it and repeat it on a test. So that's all it was memory testing. And you know, it's not applicable education, how to actually function in a job, doing things, being involved in things, having things run and operate. And that is best done by first-hand experience, apprenticeships. And so, yeah, that should be the higher education. And in fact, we don't even need to have up to grade 12. We can have an information system specifically tailored to a child's interests. You know, they want to be a singer. You know, they can learn about singing, and you know, I don't know how long it takes to learn notes and all the technical terminology, but it shouldn't take that long. And then the rest of the time, you know, they can be like Claire on YouTube. I think her name is last name is Cosby, Claire Cosby. Cute girl. She's got a lot of good songs, and the dad did a great job making a video presentation of her singing. Yeah, I mean, anybody can be whoever they want and contribute to society. We don't have to have people trying to peddle their wares and starving in the process. You don't need to have Broadway stars starving. You know, they perform, great. Here's food, here's clothing, here's shelter. We'll see you at your next show. It's that simple. You know, people can create, they can design. You know, the Apple CEO doesn't have to come out with a new edition of an iPhone that is in a new color. You know, he can actually have all the technologies put into operation immediately. He doesn't need to roll out new features each and every single year in order to keep generating money and profit year after year, so that everybody has to upgrade to the new iPhone. You know, we need to stop the ransom economy. You know, the guy of Apple, give him all that he needs so that he can build the best equipment, and then give it freely to everybody to utilize. It's that simple. You know, Facebook, we won't have the problem of somebody stealing data because nobody is selling anything on Facebook. You don't need ads on Facebook. It's just a platform to communicate. That simple. So there won't be third parties that are trying to obtain our data so that they can sell their products to us, or sell the data to the Russians so that the Russians can then hack our elections. You know, in a constitutional republic, we don't need government officers. We have a constitution. That takes care of everything. You know, if people want to be in a military because other countries refuse to be a part of a world order, okay, then we'll have to build up an army to make sure that you don't raise up an army to come up against our peaceful nation. But it will be a defensive, not an offensive. And, you know, we need to change that in our military. We need to quit going and picking fights with other nations, all for profit. We went into Afghanistan so that we can control the opiate trade. And if you notice, you go to the stats on Google, when we went and took over Afghanistan that year, notice the stats in a separate, complete, different chart of the increase in opioid problems. They line up. Wow. How could that be? Well, because we went in, took over the opium trade of the Afghanis, and then we sold the opioids to the pharmaceutical companies who created the opioid pills, and forcing the medical doctors to sell them and the pharmacies to sell them according to the prescriptions of the doctors. And now we have an opioid crisis in America because we took over Afghanistan by Bush. That simple. Follow the money, and there you go. I can do it on Google. I made the connection quite easily and simply. We have an opioid crisis because we took over the opioid plantations in Afghanistan. That's why we went there. Wasn't for oil, wasn't to free and liberate the people. You know, we could have done it. We could have done a blitzkrieg, gone mile by mile through Afghanistan, killing everybody who had a weapon. We didn't do that, because we only wanted to control the opioid trade. And now we have the opioid crisis here in America. And so Trump's policies to do away with the restrictions isn't going to do anything, because he's not getting to the cause, which is our military in Afghanistan. We need to pull them out, leave the Afghanis alone, let them govern themselves. And if they raise up a king who will oppress the people, then we remove the king and let the people say, okay, you need to have a government that doesn't oppress you. A king is not going to do that, because there will eventually rise up a king who will cause problems. We in America experienced that under Trump. It's not complicated, people. Don't get caught up into party politics. Don't get caught up into tribalism. Just because you're a Republican does not mean Republicans are the best answer. They're not. Because people suffer under either party. When we had Obama, when we had Clinton, there were still poor. They did not solve the poor problem, because they did not solve the economic problem. And so socialists coming in, yeah, no. They're only going to do Medicare, but they're not going to do the other problems. They're not going to fix our car problem when our car breaks down and we have to upgrade to the newest model, or we have to buy parts and pay a mechanic to fix it. We don't need that. And the combustion engine, it's been obsolete for 100 years. Why are we even using a combustion engine? We can easily do solar for everything. And the reason why people claim, oh no, solar is ineffective, it's not as powerful, it's not a good enough battery storage, and blah, 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 blah. No, it's because people are purposely making them to fail. Part of it is because combustion engines are forcing them to fail, but the other part is that they've learned, just like everybody else has learned, you've got to create products that fail, otherwise we can't get people to come back and buy our product. If you have a car that lasts you your whole life, what's the car company going to do after everybody buys their product? They don't need to come back for parts, they don't need a new car. Car companies go out of business. Can't have that. So, ransom economy. We can eliminate that. Just get rid of money. And people who are knowledgeable on making cars through solar power can make them powerful, long-lasting. It can be done. We have the technology. We have the capability of making the first bionic car. $6 million man. Way to go, Steve Austin. So, yeah, there's no need for the suffering that we're going through in our nation. We can rebuild a society better than ever on earth. It can be done, but we have to remove those who are in power, who are in control of government and business. They've got to go. And we, the people, are the only ones who can do it. We can crash their businesses. We can keep them out of office. Though it's difficult with office, we'd have to sneak in somebody into a party who would then rise up and say, "Ah, fooled you all. I'm not really a Democrat or Republican. I'm actually..." Yeah, it can be done. Trump did it. He was a Democrat his whole life, and then he ran as a Republican. "Ah, tricked you all. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I'm Nazi." Hey, he fooled us. He's an illegitimate president anyway. We should be removed immediately. Yet we keep fighting over whether he needs to stay or whether we can indict him. You know, it's not a question of how do we remove a president who's corrupt. He was illegitimate in the first place. He doesn't belong there. He has to be immediately removed. We have to have a new election. It's that simple. But nobody in power wants to do it because they've purposely set this up this way. And then they tell everybody else, oh, woe is we, the Democrats. How do we get this situation? Oh, but we're not going to try to impeach him. No, because that would hurt the midterm elections. Come on. They're all playing a game. That's the shell game I've been telling over and over on my website. We don't need an economy. Everything can be done through labor, because that's how it has to be done anyway. People have to work, but we don't need to work for others so that they can sit back behind a desk or behind a golf cart while we pay their salaries. Everybody works for the whole of the community. And we own our property, so it's not socialism. Because that's what I get asked. Oh, it seems like it's a form of socialism. No. You own what you use to make things. You own it. That's automatically not socialism. You know, you just can't use it for barter or monetary systems. That's the only difference. There is no money. You know, like Star Wars, or Star Trek rather. Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry had a utopian principle of fascist government with a federation, but at the same time there was no monetary system. You know, you can just synthesize your food. And so, yeah, he had an idea. It's not the best idea, Gene, even though he's now dead. But you don't create a federation. That's where they went wrong. Because if we are actually capable of traveling out in space, we don't need to have a military force. There's no indication that there are threats in space other than the natural asteroids that would pose a threat to colliding with the ship. So 6 a.m. Wow. Alright, so I'm going to get ready for my day. Hey, I should go back to bed. But, you know, is there anybody listening? Does anybody care? You know, typically, corrupt leadership in economics and in government kill the dreamers. And they've already tried silencing me and remove me from society for 6 years. So I know the danger that we face. And it's going to be difficult to get rid of those in power. But we can establish a better, safer Garden of Eden for this whole earth. Nirvana, utopia, whatever you want to call it. Zion. It can be done. I have been trying over and over to get people to understand it. But nobody's listening. Because the Russians have sway over your minds. We will break them. Ivan Drago. So yeah, I'm going to put that little clip at the end of this video.
Well, the condition of both men, but the Russian
I must break you.
Oh, Ivan Drago